we are going to be working through Lab 3. So before you start, make sure that you've downloaded your data and that it is somewhere where you can find it for opening up ARC and creating a new map. I'm going to label this Lab 3. Okay. We're going to walk through the instructions perfectly step by step so I can mark any places where they are out of date already. Over here, we're going to come to catalog and to folders. I'm going to add a folder connection to our data. Now that we have our data, I'm going to come back here to our instructions. Some important things to note here in the instructions is that the creating and editing data is going to be utilized a ton in future assignments without step-by-step instructions. So make sure that you are absorbing how to do this analysis as well as keeping track of where these instructions are in case you forget. Note that the data in ARC is protected, which means you can't just edit things willy-nilly however you want. It's a little bit of a process to avoid accidentally messing stuff up that you don't mean to mess with. So to edit data, you have to actively start an editing session. And then to proceed, you can make edits without starting the editing session, but to proceed, you have to save your edits, which will be clear what that means once you get started. Okay, part 1, editing data. So we've downloaded and we've unzipped the folder. If you need a reminder on how to do that, there is an announcement with a video up going over just how to download and extract your data from your folder. And now that we've connected our folder, which should always be your first step, we're going to add in study sites. I'm going to let that happen. And you'll see that ARC has already zoomed in so we can focus on the data that we're given with this shapefile. If it doesn't do that, automatically zoom in. And we're going to add an image base map. It's going to come up here to map, to base map up here in this top ribbon. I'm going to do imagery. There's also imagery hybrid and NAIP imagery hybrid. We want something with labels, so we're actually going to use imagery hybrid. As you can see now, we have labels marking out Wasatch National Forest and this state border right here. Or not state border, whatever this border is. I'm sure it'll tell us eventually. We're going to double check our coordinate system now by clicking map in our table of contents, to properties, to coordinate systems. I see our current coordinate system is NAD 1983 zone 12. This is where we want to be, but if for some reason it doesn't show you this, again, all you need to do is come down here to your projected coordinate system tab, find UTM, which is down here at the bottom, find NAD 1983, and then find zone 12. Select, and we're already in it, so when we press OK, it'll change, but nothing is actually changed. That wasn't very clear. It'll change the projected system to that NAD 1983 zone 12N. However, because my map was already on this, nothing has changed. Okay, we'll see that we've got these points up here that should roughly kind of match up with the headwaters of some of these drainage zones in these watersheds. So these are just places where the water is going to run off and be funneled through because of the topography and geography of the area. In the instructions we are about to follow, don't leave me alone, we're going to move 3 of them that are not in the correct place and delete 4 that are unneeded. Don't worry about picking the right locations. There isn't a right location. We're just going to shuffle some data around. So the first thing that I am going to do is adjust the symbology. This is not directly in your instructions, but I'm going to change the symbology to something that is a lot easier to see and nice to see. So I'm actually going to make these that color. So now they're a lot easier to see and nicer to work with. So now we're going to start editing our data. We're going to come here to the Edit tab. If you come up to the ribbon to the top, click on Edit. And then we're going to select one of the dots. You'll see it turns it turquoise on the map for a little bit. And it'll bring up this pop-up thing. But that is not what we're aiming to do here. See, so now that we're up here in our edit bar, we're going to come here to Tools, and we're going to click on Move, right? And now when we select something, okay, pause. When you select a point on the map, it's going to turn it turquoise and bring up some information on it, right? Depending on what you select it with, that turquoise color might stay or leave. We're going to use the Move tool up here, and we're going to drag one of these dots to a new location. Now, earlier in the instructions, it said it should be matched up with the headwaters of a drainage area. So we're just going to click one that doesn't really look like it's doing that. I'm going to click like this one, for example. And I'm going to click him. Let me move him. And now that I've clicked, okay. So now that I've clicked move over here, I'm going to be able to click on him. You'll see he's like highlighted in purple, and I get a little arrow symbol. Now I'm going to be able to move him to where he needs to go. I'm going to set him right here because this is a very clear beginnings of this drainage area. Just going to set him right here. Now you'll see there's this turquoise shadow. In order to keep this dot where we have moved him, you can either come down here and click this little check mark box, which will just keep him there, or I believe you can just, if I were to come to a new one, select him, move, and drag him to here, I can just click off of him and it'll save that feature change. Speaking of saving, continuously save your project, people. Alrighty, so to practice moving these points to locations that are closer to the headwaters in these regions, what we're going to do is you are going to select points with the FID 33, 34, and 35 to vegetated headwaters. Again, that's like these areas where the water is going to originate as it flows down. You can tell it's vegetated because it's green. So in order to determine which points match that FID, we're going to come here to Study Sites, and we're going to click Attribute Table. And we're going to see here that we have our FID, our shape, and our ID. These two columns don't seem to be very useful, but that's okay because FID is what we want. And we specifically want 33, 34, and 35. On a bigger data set, you might want to select by attribute to select an FID is equal to one of your numbers, and it'll take you to there. Or in our case, you can just select it yourself here on this gray zone, and it should, if we, well, now it has 33 selected because we asked it to. So I'll just clear our selection. We find 33 here. Again, it selected it and it's kind of highlighted in this slightly different color. So we can come here now and move it to here. Save that. And you'll see if we were to select this guy, we were to select let, please. We're going to click on this guy. He's going to tell us that this is 0.34, right? So go ahead and find points 33, which for me is right here, and 35, which is right there, and practice moving them around with the Move tool. Moving on, this next section is about deleting unnecessary points. So we're going to, I'm going to come back to this map and put Explore so I can move our data around a little bit. What we are going to do is remove 36 through 39 on our table to clear up some space by taking out these 4 points. So there are a few ways you can do this. You can either use Shift to select all of these points on the map. So how you're going to do that is you're going to click here, again on this gray zone that allows you to select the point. You're going to hold down Shift and select the rest of the points. And you can either do that just with your mouse or actually don't do it with your mouse. Apparently it does not seem to like that. Or what you can do is hold Shift and the down key, which apparently is the more elegant solution to that. Or you can use this Select Features tool and select the features on the map, again, by holding Shift as you click on them. I'm not going to use this particular tool because it's a little more clunky to figure out which points exactly you're looking for. I'm just going to come here to the table, select that, Shift, and down arrow until I have all 4 selected. Now that we have these selected, we're going to come up here to the banner in the attribute table. We're just going to click Delete, click Yes, and poof, they're gone. Alrighty, now we're going to want to save these edits before we go much further. So you're going to come over here, back to Edit. You need to be in this tab. You're going to click this Save card here. We're going to click Yes, please save. And now this attribute table is saved with our new locations for those 3 dots and the 4 that we have deleted. So now this next section is on adding attribute information. So we're going to name all of these sites to make it easier to work with them in ArcGIS. So to come here to the attribute table, we're going to add a field. Quick thing to note, if this is grayed out when you try to go add it, that means you haven't saved something up in the edit when last you were editing your data. But we did edit, so now we are here. We're going to name this field site name. We're going to make sure our data type, you have to double click this to get it to open, is text so that we can type in it. If you try any other of these and try to put letters in it, in the field, it's not going to let you do anything. So make sure you select text as your data type. And we're going to make the length for this 15, which means it's just going to store 15 characters. And I continuously accidentally do that. So I'm just going to right click and delete. Moving on, we're going to come up here to the top. Again, click Save here in our changes. And now that we saved that, I'm going to close this so I can see the map. Now, we're going to type right into this field. We're going to give each sample site a unique name, right? So I'm going to call this one Marigold and this one Puppy. And you could go down naming all of these, but we're not going to make you do that. So just go ahead and name a couple of them. Say 15, N192, whatever you feel is interesting, just to kind of, see that you can do that. And make sure at the end you come back up here to this edit in ribbon and click save. And this is going to save your changes in this table. If you didn't do that, these would disappear the next time it closed and then you opened it again. Alrighty, so that was our work on changing existing data. Now we are going to create brand new data. So with this part of the exercise, you can focus on any area you want on Earth. You will need to know the local coordinate system for the area you choose. So if you're doing something that's not in Utah, which would be the 1983 UTM Zone 12, you can just Google UTM zone map if you want to use UTM projections. So if you're not choosing something where you already know what coordinate zone it is, just make sure that you Google it, Google where you're meant to be so that you can, you're in the correct coordinate system. And I'm going to close you. So that's interesting. Don't know why it is not letting me leave. I don't have it selected. Let me select things. I have it selected. There we go. All right. Now that we are free of whatever was holding us to the selected system, I'm going to go ahead and stick in Utah, so I don't have to change my UTM, but again, you can always change that. I'm going to go ahead and come down here to Dixie National Forest and work in this area. You'll also see, just as a quick note, if you choose another state to work in, you can use state plane coordinate system. So you come here to map and properties, coordinate systems, and then projected. And you want your state plane. And then in here, you will again choose the 1983 meters. And then you have all of your states and various different zones in that state arranged alphabetically that you can choose from. But again, I'm in Utah, so I'm going to use UTM Zone 12. Now, we're going to make our way to our area of interest. For me, that's, again, Dixie National Forest. My coordinate system is already set to the correct one for this area. I'm going to add data to an existing shapefile. So I'm going to come up here to edit. Then we have the create here in features. Create. This is going to open this panel here, create features. And we're going to select the layer we want to add to. Now we only have one layer, but if you have multiple, you just pick the correct one and you're just going to click that. And now you can do all kinds of nonsense to it. Well, okay, that's a lie. You can only add points to it. But you can eventually, through enough fiddling about, add all the things you'd like to add. As you can see, my cursor out here already has a point to start adding to the map. So I'm going to go ahead and click on some locations where, whoopsies, where I want this data. As you can see, even though I have this selected, I'm still able to pan about. If I click on the scroll wheel of my mouse, click and hold, it'll let me pan about. So I'm going to go ahead and choose 6 places that are along these, that's in this area between these kind of 2 roads. I'm going to click a few here at the base of this, what looks to be some kind of increased elevation area. I'm going to click, put a few down in this area, and then I'll put a few on this side. Now that I have a few points, if I come here to the attribute table here, they all have a new spot in this table. So you can see as I select them, they're highlighted. Now next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a shapefile for polygons. Because we need a new layer for this. So this layer is points, right? Which means we can't add lines or polygons to it. We're going to need a new layer to add lines and polygons. So I'm going to close this to give myself some space. And I'm going to click save so I can move about again. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to come here to the catalog so that we can make a new data folder, a new shapefile in the data folder to hold our polygons. So I'm going to right click on this, click new, and then click shapefile. Now you see you have a bunch of options here. And first thing I'm going to do is this class location is going to be my data folder. That's what I want to keep. I'm going to give it a name. And I'm going to name it Polygon Layer 1. You can be as creative as you want, but for me, this will serve my purposes just fine. This geometry type is going to determine what we can add to the shapefile, like what kind of discrete data it will, or what kind of data, it's going to support. So we want to add polygon, which is already set to. We don't really need a template feature class or an M or Z. We don't need to add these. These are different planes and the word escapes me. It's like you have your horizontal and your vertical, and you have Z. It's more complicated than I'm going to get into this video. You are always free to look it up on your own or reach out if you have questions. Pause real quick, please. Hold on, everybody. Okay, we're going to go ahead and resume real quick. Wherever we were doing something. We were creating a feature class. That is correct. Okay. Sorry, got to get myself situated again. Okay. Next up is this coordinate system. In creating your feature class, you want to set it to the correct coordinate system. You can either do it with this drop-down arrow to select a layer or just the current map system. Or if you click this little world icon, it's going to let you choose any coordinate system of your choice. So for me, since I'm working in Utah still, I'm just going to send it to current map, which is going to autofill as the UTM zone 12. And then as soon as you have this coordinate system filled in, which is like one of the most important things on this panel, make sure you have your coordinate system. I'm going to click run. You don't need to worry about this one. I'm going to click run down here to run this tool. And now we have our layer. So that's in our table of contents. We are going to start drawing some polygons for us. So for me, your instructions trace the Mantua Reservoir, which is the reservoir in the town that's like halfway through the canyon to Logan. I am simply going to, well, what shall I trace? I'm going to go ahead and trace this lake right here. So going to come back to our creating features, this little box. We're going to click on polygon layer 1. We're going to click on this polygon tool. So, and then keep in mind that this is just the name of your layer, so it might be different than mine, and it might be different than the instructions. It's just going to be what you named your layer that you just made. So I'm going to zoom in quite a bit so that I can be as accurate as possible. And I am just going to start tracing this along its edges. We're going to click out along this edge. Now you can see that the outline is being silly, and that's just because we haven't finished yet, so don't worry too much about it. Just going to do a rough outline of the whole thing. And you're just going to keep on clicking, and placing your vertices for your polygon to form. Just keep on going. What a fun little process. All the way here till the end. Why have you done this now? I cannot see. Well, I'm going to guess as rough as I can where everything is. It's going to be good enough. And then you can either double click on your last vertex that you're going to put to finish it, or you can click here on your first one. And that's going to connect it. Double click. Okay, so it looks like just clicking on the first one doesn't finish it. So either double click, or you can try the F2 key. But for sure, double click. Oh no. Now I've accidentally made a new one, so I'm just going to come here to this little cancel button, click that, and then I'm going to unselect. Let me stop. Let me move around without editing things. So something to note is to make sure you finish filling in your shape, or else it'll disappear when you try to when you save it. You want to come up here, click save. Yes. And now we have McGath Lake. as a polygon. Now, you can always, since it's selected, click delete to delete it if you need to, or you just leave it because that's where you want it. And if you come here to the attribute table, you'll see that our polygon has been assigned an FID and an ID. As it's the first one, it's been assigned 0. Now, if you're in the midst doing this, there are a couple other tips on your thing. Say I put a vertice down that I don't want. Can either right click it and do, okay, so this is one of those parts where we're outdated. I am just going to click cancel, and it's going to make it vanish. So give me a moment to note that down. And we can also move vertices if we so desire. So we're going to come up here to our tools. We're going to click edit vertices. Now it's going to show us all of the vertices in the location. So you can pick them up and move them. So say, for example, that this one is in the wrong spot. I can bring him over here and then click save. And that's going to move him. And you can pick them up and move them and delete them. So congratulations. That's it for digitalizing data. Always click save. And I'm going to come here to explore. Alrighty, everybody. We are going to move on to part 3 of your assignment. And we're going to symbolize location of Utah power plants according to their annual CO2 emissions in 2017. So I'm going to zoom out here a bit so I can see Utah. I'm going to unselect these layers to clear up my map. Excuse me. So we're going to come here to our shapefile power plant CO2. We're going to go ahead and add that to the map. And it's going to populate our map zone. Now these are all of the power plant locations from the CO2 project for the state of Utah. Now there are a few things to keep in mind. There's always things to keep in mind when you're editing things. For you guys, they should all be listed in your assignments. Things to keep in mind are that these emissions are quantities. So you're going to want to use that to inform what kinds of colors you use. You want to use appropriate colors because these are CO2 emissions and not something fun. And you want to use a base map that's going to highlight your symbology. So this is a good point to think about contrast, to draw attention, and hierarchy to send the reader's eyes where you want it to, and to make sure your symbols are very visible when you're editing your symbology. So I'm going to let you guys go ahead and take this, and you're going to use what you've learned to symbolize this however you so desire. Go ahead and give it a try by yourself, and you can come back if you need some inspiration or help. Okay, hopefully you had some fun getting your symbology edited. We're going to go ahead and take a look at what I did here. And then move on to creating a layout. So as you can see, I kind of picked a very white base map to show off this very aggressive red symbol that I picked that looks kind of like a hazard sign because we're dealing with CO2 and greenhouse gases. But I wanted a way to symbolize these. And this is a good tool to learn, remember, with your symbology, to symbolize them as the assignment asks by how much they're emitting, right? What you want to do is you want to make your primary symbology graduated symbols. You can also use proportional symbols. You can try graduated colors. For me, I did graduated symbols. Next, you're going to want to select what field that this is pulling from. It's not going to start out with the field that you want typically. If we come here to the attribute table, we'll see, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Hold on. You know, it's just really, really rude when you do that. You know, Famsicle? Rofamisicle? That is just simply so rude. Okay. Moving on. Back to the map. Where was I? Oh, yes. When picking a field that you want to choose, we're trying to symbolize this by how much CO2 is emitted from each location, right? And you have two different fields in here that look like they could be what you want, right? You have your the ORIS code, your name, your type, your fuel, the fuel that they use to generate, and you have these CO2 annual, CO2 annu1. Now, at first glance, just here in this attribute table, it's not very clear what these are symbolizing and why they are different. I mean, clearly they're symbolizing annual CO2 something, but since we are not sure why they're different, it's time to do some investigation. So what I ended up doing was I checked in the assignment instructions where it tells me that the source is Utah AGRC. And now that I have a source of my information, I can Google it. So I just went into Google and looked up Utah AGRC, and I was able to find a site that is where you can download data, Utah SGID. And in their system, you can look up Utah power plants CO2 and find that it is authored by AGRC. The data set looks very familiar. And if you go to full details and look in there, you'll see that their field IDs are slightly different. Instead of it going name, type, CO2 annual, CO2 annu1, you have name, type, CO2 annual tons, and then CO2 annual tons. One is TONS, one is TONNES. The difference between these being that TON is a standard unit of measurement that deals with 2,000 pounds, say standard with quotations. And then TONNE is a metric measurement that is equivalent to 1,000 kilograms. So that explains why they are somewhat similar, but still different. And now that we know what they are, we can make a much better choice on which one to use. Since my data I'm showcasing is in Utah, I'm going to want to use TONS, tons, because Utah and the US does not use the metric system. So using a metric value wouldn't be as helpful. Now, once you've chosen your field, you can also choose how many classes. So this is how many classes it's broken up into, and your minimum and maximum size for your symbol. So I chose 7 classes and gave it a minimum size of 6 and a maximum size of 25. That seems to have worked pretty decently for me. Again, you can also try proportional symbols, which are going to give you these guys, which you'll have to change what field it's pulling from and change the symbol of it. You could also do graduated colors, which are going to just give you colors like this. Again, we want to make sure that we're doing it for this annual. I chose, in this case, to do graduated symbols, so we'll come back here real quick and fix this. So that it looks a little bit nicer. And here we have my map back again. Now you can also come over here to the advanced symbology options, and you have some options here for your format labels, your sample size, data exclusion, etc. We want to come here to our labels and just clean up what we're seeing over here on this view. This is what's going to show up in your legend, so it's nice to clean it up here right now. We're going to tell it to use significant digits, 4 of them. So it's going to make it look a lot cleaner here in our labels. And you can also choose whether to show thousand separators, so there's commas in your number, or not. I'm going to go ahead and keep that because it's easier for me to read if I have those. And now that you have your symbology all sorted out, we can go ahead and make a new layout. I'm going to choose portrait style because of the shape of my area, which is Utah. And then I'm going to add a map frame. I'm going to choose the correct map. I'm going to make it just the entire size of the map frame. And then you can fiddle around. Oops, not like that. You can activate your map frame and fiddle around with how it is arranged and showed. And I actually got pretty lucky. It looks pretty nice there. Or you can come over here to your contents and click zoom to layer to make it do it automatically for you. Now you can move along with your, whoops, we are having some trouble here. Oh, well, duh, return to layout. You can add in all of your elements that you need for the submission. For the submission, you need the map author, the date, your data credits, and a way to show a demonstration of how your symbology is. So you can either do that by creating a legend or by taking a screenshot that shows both your map and these labels over here. If you're going to create a legend, you can follow the instructions on page 17. There's also a video that I posted to an announcement in Canvas that you can use to kind of help yourself get started. And you guys go ahead and give it a try, and I'll be right back with the legend that I create. Okay, so now we're back, and I have a finished map that I can now export to a PDF. As you can see, I added a legend, I added my metadata, and I added a title. For this particular assignment, you are not required to have a north arrow or a scale bar, so I've kept them out of my map to keep things as clean and easy to read as possible. When it came to adding the legend, what you want to do is you want to click on the layer and then the element, and it'll bring up this, ARC will bring up this element panel. And this is where you can adjust your legend and such. You're going to come down here to legend and title, and I want to show the title that I give it, annual CO2 emissions. If I come to legend properties, this is where I can tell it whether to show layer name or headings, which I don't want because that's going to make it messy. So it's going to try and show me power plant CO2 and CO2 annual, which I don't need in this case. I can also adjust the sizing of this patch that it's taking up here, which is going to allow me to make it as wide and tall as I want. You can just adjust it with these. You can also change the text symbol if you want, but I didn't worry about that too much. And that was basically how I added my legend. I used up here to add it to the map, and just picked one of these and drew it on the map as such, just like this, to get a legend. As you can see, it kind of populates with all of this nonsense that you can get rid of and adjust in here. There's a couple different options that you can play around with, but I chose this one. Next, I added in my spatial reference, which should have gotten rid of this service layer credits. That's on me, oops. So now that the service layer credits are here, I can just plop them off the map and make the map look nice and pretty. And I used dynamic text credits to add in the credits down here. And I just used the bar that showed up, this little box, and used it to type in map author, date, and my credits. I see here that there seems to be an issue with my data credits being cut off. You see I have my credits where my data came from, and I have credits to Esri because they are who provided this base map. If you use any base map that's just like comes with ARC, almost certainly it's by Esri. If you use another one that you like upload into ARC, then you'll want to specify who it's from. But you shouldn't have to worry about that for the time being. So I'm just going to drag this out so you can see all of my credits. And then I added another text box to write in my title. And that is everything that I need to do. So now I'll come here to share, export layout. I'll make sure that it's a PDF. I'll give it a name if I can find the end here, this layout 1. I'm going to just name it whatever I want. I want to make sure that the vector resolution is 150 dpi. And then I'm going to click export. And once this finishes, export completed, I now have a complete map that I can submit for this assignment. Again, if you don't want to deal with this legend, you can just take a screenshot that shows your completed map plus your labeling here on the side. And what you want to do is you want to take a screenshot of this and paste it into a Word doc. You want to make sure that the only thing shown is your map and your labels. So I hope this helped, and I wish you luck on your assignment. Bye-bye.